Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Planning Board Public Business Meeting of June 25th, 2020. This meeting will be conducted electronically. The public will be given an opportunity to participate in the meeting by the following viewing listening methods: YouTube live stream, or by phoning the following AT&T call-in bridge number, which is toll-free, 888-204-5987, and entering the access code 2604706 when prompted. Live stream viewers can type questions. Are we having the live chat? Okay, good. We're monitoring that. So, yes, live stream viewers can type questions along with your name and address for the record in the chat box to the right of the video. Dial-in participants will initially be muted. Should listen for instructions by myself as to when the floor will be open to the public for questions and or comments. Documents were available at the Hillsborough Township website at the Hillsborough Civic Clerk homepage at least 10 days prior to the meeting. With that said, please join me in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note that this meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, otherwise known as the Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2020 annual meeting schedule has been provided to the officially designated newspapers, the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board here at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex, and posted to the Township's website. Additional notice has been provided to communicate that this meeting is being conducted via electronic means only. So with that, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
This is Eric Bernstein. I'd like to also indicate for purpose of record that this meeting is being conducted in accordance with Chapter 11 of the Public Law of 2020, which allows for electronic meetings.
Okay, thank you. So with that, may I have a roll call?
Mr. Lapani, absent. Mr. Wagner, absent. Mr. Santaramita, absent. Mr. Peason.
Here.
Mr. Scobo.
Present.
Mr. Ciccarelli.
Here.
Mr. Emick.
Here.
Mr. Delcourt.
Here.
Mr. Hestad.
Here.
Mr. Julian.
Here.
Chairman Sirachi.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. So should I go through the board township professionals that are present?
Please.
Oh,
Okay.
I can do that. I'll do it. Mr. Maskey.
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein.
Here.
We have Mr. Kinsler.
Present.
Mr. Beeling.
Here.
And I'm here also.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the purposes of record, because Christine is not there, I would remind everybody who is speaking to indicate who you are for purposes of the record of the transcript.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. And we also speak slowly, too.
Thank you.
Okay, so first up, we have consideration of meeting minutes. We do have one set on this evening's agenda, the meeting minutes of June 4th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve?
I approve it. Scobo.
Okay.
I'll second. Julian.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from?
The eligible members, Mr. Chairman, are Mr. Delcourt, Mr. Peason, yourself, Mr. Julian, Mr. Scobo, Mr. Hestag, Mr. Ciccarelli, and Mr. Emick.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the dais? Seeing lots of head shaking, no. Roll call, please.
Mr. Peason.
Peason, yes.
Mr. Scobo,
Scobo, yes.
Mr. Ciccarelli,
Mr. Ciccarelli, yes.
Mr. Emick,
Amick, yes.
Mr. Delcor,
Yes.
Mr. Hestag,
Yes.
Mr. Julian,
Yes.
Chairman Sirachi.
Yes. Moving on, we do not have any consideration of resolutions, nor any planning board business. So next will be business from the floor for matters not on the agenda. So we will open up, well, first, is there anyone that has typed any on the chat? Okay, I see a head shake, so there's nobody that's typed any questions. So we'll open up the, unmute the lines.
All
And
participants are now in interactive talk mode.
And I will remind anyone that would like to comment, please state your name and address for the record. And also, please mute
Your YouTube live stream.
your live stream. Any comments from the phone line? Okay, other than I hear
All
myself.
participants are now in listen-only mode.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on, we have considerations of an ordinance. This is ordinance 2020-17. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 188 of the Land Use and Development, Article 5, Districts and Standards of the Code of the Township of Hillsborough, by addition of a new section, 113-9, titled Royce Brook Planned Residential District. Mr. Jermaski?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposed ordinance before you tonight would rezone the Royce Brook Golf Course from its current designation, which is split between the CDZ Corporate Development Zone and the 05 Office Research Zone. The new zone would be called the Royce Brook Planned Residential Development. More specifically, the new zone would apply to Lot 38.01 in Block 183 and Lot 1 in Block 18301, which together total 436 acres. The tract is bounded by Sunnymead Road to the west, Hamilton Road to the south, Millstone River Road to the east, and Sacred Heart Cemetery and Central Jersey Airport to the north. The purpose of the district is to permit a comprehensively designed golf course community with a predetermined affordable housing contribution, which would be consistent with the township's overall housing plan. To that end, the district would permit a mix of residential uses and golf course-related uses as follows: up to 180 detached single-family homes with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet each, and a maximum residential tract size of 180 acres. The district would be subject to an affordable housing fee in the amount of $120,000 per unit, equal to 24% of the total number of market rate units. That would come out to be 45 affordable units. And that fee would be paid to the Township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It would also allow a golf course, actually require a golf course with a minimum size of 190 acres. Some limited restaurant and lodging facilities that are directly associated with the golf course. At least 50% of the gross area of the tract, which would amount to 218 acres of the 436, must be used as either a golf course, open space, or some combination thereof. I'd be happy to answer any questions about any specifics in the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maskey. So, again, just to remind the members of the planning board, this is being referred to us by the Township Committee. They referred to us at the May 26th meeting, and in accordance with the municipal land use law, it's for our, comment regarding to ensure its consistency with the Township's master plan and any other matters any of the board members deems appropriate. So with that, I guess I will start the questioning. The $120,000 per unit fee for the affordable housing, how did that, I guess, that fee total, come?
Ms. Bernstein, do you want to address that?
What was the question? I'm hearing Mr. Chairman periodically.
Okay. Do I need to get a little bit closer? Okay.
Go ahead, speak.
So, Mr. Bernstein, so what I was asking was with regards to the $120,000 per unit fee, I was looking at how we arrived at that figure for, to cover the affordable housing portion.
The parties entered into negotiations that led to this ultimate agreement in consultation and review by the planning director, by my office, in consultation with the court special master, because this individual was seeking and did obtain intervention status in our affordable housing litigation. It was determined that a reasonable number based on overall cost for an affordable housing unit would be priced at $120,000 a unit, and therefore that was the number the parties ultimately settled upon for purposes of determining the amount in question.
Okay. And that's a fee per the 100, of each of the 180 anticipated?
What would be, for 24%, in other words, their obligation,
That is ostensibly paid for, I apologize, David.
That's right.
The fee that ostensibly paid for the affordable housing units that could have been created by building 24% on site.
So it's not on the full 180, it's on 24% of 180.
correct.
On 24% of 180 times 120 equals $5,040,000.
Correct. And that's the point we should have made, that this is, as Eric said, this is in lieu of actually constructing the affordable housing on this site. It will go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to be used elsewhere in the township.
Okay.
For the board's edification as well as the public, it was determined that we wanted to reduce the number of units on this site as little as possible. And this is significantly lower than the applicant originally proposed, which included a roughly 24% on-site affordable housing obligation. In order to get the number of market rate units down and to turn it into more of a single-family development than a possible multifamily or townhome development, the parties came to the decision that we would look for a contribution in lieu in order to get the number of total units down to the minimum we're talking about here.
Okay. So it's going to be, so the total payment is going to be $120,000 times 45, assuming they,
43.
No,
43.
24% of 180.
wait, okay.
How many bedroom units are they?
How many what?
Bedroom units, how many bedrooms in those affordable housing?
And that was Mr. Sobo.
Well,
In the affordable housing, which is obviously not an issue here in terms of on-site, the requirement would be for a mixed development of one-bedroom, two-bedroom, and three-bedroom units, of which 13% would have to be very low, a total of low and very low-income units at 50% of total, and the remainder would be moderate-income units for the remaining 50%, which is in accord with the Uniform Housing Affordability Control Law, as well as what has been the township policy engaged with the various interveners and Fair Share Housing Center relative to other developments within the township.
Okay. And how would the payment schedule work out? Is that going to be based off of COs issued?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry, this is the chairman, sorry.
Okay, I couldn't hear you on the right.
The payment would be, and I'm checking to confirm this, but my recollection is that it is half at building, it is half at time of CO. It is basically all of it, it's half of it is time of CO, and the time of CO. All of it. That is my recollection.
So we're saying, and this is the chairman again, sorry, So are we saying COs of all 180 units?
No, each unit, they would basically be paying a comparable amount. It would be 120 times .24 times the unit. So basically, they're paying $28,965.52 per market unit.
Okay.
So any CO, whether it's any of the market units, every time a CO is issued for a market unit, we will get paid approximately $29,000, which will ultimately end up, based on 174 units, at a little over $5 million. If there are a couple more units built in accordance with the agreement, we would continue to get an additional $28,954.62 per unit.
Okay.
And Eric, just to confirm,
This is Mr. Delcor.
No, sorry, this is, yeah.
$28,965.52.
Yeah, so this is Frank. So the funds, as they're collected, would be placed into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and they would be ostensibly used for round 4, correct?
Well, they could be used for round 4. They could also be used potentially for round 3, depending on our additional needs. Our trust fund is starting to run a little on the low side from actions that the governing body has taken over the last few years to obtain affordable housing and limit our market rate housing. So it's possible we may need it for round 3. It is more likely we will need it for round 4, which, by the way, folks, as of Wednesday, we will be at the halfway mark of the round. So it's not that far down the road.
Hey, Eric, this is Neil Julian. How does the fund work in terms of money goes into the fund and then is allocated for affordable housing? Who makes...
It's allocated, Neil. We are required to produce a spending plan, which we are in the process of putting together as part of our compliance obligation. But ostensibly, it can be used for the creation of affordable housing, for the acquisition of housing to be built. What was that?
Yeah, who chooses the location, the developer, like where does
The municipality that's spending the municipality's money. So we would potentially acquire land for possible housing, as we have done. We could go out and buy existing housing and attempt to convert it to affordable. We could use it for purposes of assistance in related items such as rehabilitation. Up to 20% of it may be used for administrative costs, which I will indicate to the board and public does not include me. But engineering, planning, and related costs, and the town, acquisition of property and potential construction of affordable housing, whether in a 100% affordable housing development or something less than that, probably the most likely use of the money. And I will indicate to the township, I know that Frank has heard this before, we're going to have obligations in round 4 unless the legislature changes the current law. We will have obligations going forward. We are addressing our unmet need without having to build any more units, but based on Hillsborough's current land situation, there will probably be unit obligations starting in 2025.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions? David, I just have one. This is, Christina, it's the chairman. With regards, I saw something in the ordinance under supplemental regulations. There was mention of private roads. Is that something the ordinance would address now, or is that during the at the application?
I mean, whether or not
It's going to be
roads must be private?
Correct.
Application.
Yeah, I agree.
For the purposes of the record, Mr. Chairman, so everybody understands, and I know you've seen some misunderstandings, what the board has before it tonight is a proposed zoning ordinance, which was created as part of the settlement agreement that was approved by the special master and by the court. All this is to allow the possible development of the Royce Brook site at some period of time down the road. It could be once this ordinance is in effect, or it could be months or years down the road. The application would have to conform to the zoning, but this is not an application. We are not determining whether or not whether Royce Brook and Toll Brothers are compliant or non-compliant. The issue of their wastewater management plan, whatever issues are separate and apart. All this is the zoning that was created pursuant to the settlement agreement between the parties, part of the Township's affordable housing litigation.
Okay. So with that, go ahead, Mr. Scobo.
Mr. Scobo, I have another question. I don't know if it's proper at this time, but I know it says the limited restaurant, lodging facilities directly associated with the golf course. Would that mean they're going to keep what they have there now, or are they going to tear that down and rebuild? Do you know that at this time?
Well, no, we don't. We don't have an application. As Eric was saying, this could be months, years down the road, so what's there now could stay there for any amount of time.
No, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Okay, so I will take a
Motion to open.
motion to
public.
open the public.
That was Frank. Motion to open the public.
Isn't the, I'm sorry.
Mr. Scobo, second. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Peason? Oh,
Mr. Peason's on mute.
I'm sorry, Peason, yes. I had my phone on mute, sorry.
that's okay. Mr. Scobo?
Yes.
Mr. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Emick?
Yeah.
Mr. Delcourt?
Yes.
Mr. Hespag?
Yes.
Mr. Julian?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, and first I'd like to just check, do we have any questions on the chat line?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
So this is Fred. I'll read the chat question. The first one comes from Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. The ordinance as viewed online states that there are 106 pages, but I have been only able to view 54 of the 106. Do we have an idea about that?
The ordinance is about, I'll give you the exact amount. The ordinance is about 6 or 7 pages long. I'm not sure what you're referencing.
There are page numbers at the bottom of it, David, that indicate page 49 through, this is part of your,
Okay, that's,
49 through 53 of 106.
okay, that's the civic clerk numbering system.
Okay.
So everything that's put in there, be it the agenda, notices, they get a number, a consecutive numbering system, but the ordinance itself is like 6 pages, roughly.
All right, the next one is from Gary Baldwin, Franklin Drive. At what location in the existing infrastructure will the connection be made for the public water and public sewer for this development?
and that will be, go ahead, Mr. Bernstein.
Yeah, that's an engineering detail that will be worked out when the project gets engineered and gets eventually to the planning board for an approval.
Okay, the next, Chad Corner, 51 Ann Street. The proposed ordinance says minimum lot sizes of 6,000 square feet. Does this mean there will be lots that will be larger than that?
They are permissible to be larger than that, but they will not be any smaller than 6,000 square feet. Now's the chairman, sorry.
What was that?
It's Chairman Sirachi.
Oh, okay, you say so.
Okay, back to Gary Baldwin, Franklin Drive. I believe this is him. Can we talk about all the environmental concerns with this site?
Mr. Bernstein?
The answer is no. As I indicated a few minutes ago, the zoning ordinance is the parameters upon which a development application can be brought before either the zoning or the planning board, in this case the planning board, for purposes of a potential development. The issue of environmental constraints, wetlands, setbacks and the like will occur when if an applicant comes before this board with an application to build in accordance with the zoning ordinance, assuming the zoning ordinance is adopted by the Township Committee.
Okay, I just want to correct, that was not from Chad, that was from Tom O'Donnell, 33 Ann Street, and he has a couple of other questions. Why are we affording transient housing on this site?
Since I have no idea, Mr. O'Donnell, how you're defining transient housing, there is a proposal within the ordinance for the possibility of, I believe, up to 5 lodge units, which would allow people to come on, play golf, stay over for a night, and leave. If that's how you're defining transient, that's the issue. Otherwise, these are for sale, market rate homes, which one would assume are not for transient parties.
Okay, another from Tom O'Donnell, 33 Ann. Is there a cap on the lot size?
There is a cap on the lot size in the sense of, and David can correct me if I'm wrong, in order to get the number of units on the site within the amount of land that exists, there is a cap by the sheer nature of the number of units being built. If the applicant comes in with larger lots, they're going to end up building fewer units because the provisions here are not for anything other than single-family housing.
Yeah, this is Dave. If I might add to that, there's 2 levels here. There's a maximum tract size and a minimum lot size. So in other words, the entire residential component of the district, in other words, the 436 acres, that cannot exceed 180 acres. That's the maximum residential tract size. Within that tract, the minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet for an individual single-family house.
Okay, still staying with, oh, sorry.
The maximum number of residential units are 174. So within a combination of the maximum tract size, the minimum lot size, and the maximum number of residential units, if the applicant comes in with a larger lot size, it's going to affect how many residential units it can build, because it can't build more than 174.
Correct. This is the chairman. Just adding in there, the 174 is capped, but there could be an additional 6 if the telecommunication tower site is
That's correct.
is abandoned. So that's where
That's the extra 6.
the
correct.
extra 6.
But that's within the 180, to follow up, Mr. Chairman, that is within the 180 acres maximum tract size.
Correct.
Okay, staying with Tom O'Donnell, 33 Ann Street. How can you zone a property without considering the environmental issues and / impact?
Because, Mr. O'Donnell, the issue of how a property is zoned does not necessarily address the environmental concerns that an applicant is required to meet if they plan on developing the site. There is no requirement to consider environmental constraints, et cetera, except for setbacks in a zoning ordinance. It is up to the applicant to make sure that when they submit what is hopefully a conforming plan, they not only meet the requirements of the ordinance, they meet the requirements of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and other related entities who control the issue of environmental matters.
Okay, staying with Mr. O'Donnell. Sounds like this zone has a lot of flexibility and open items built into the zoning. Is the planning board typically this flexible and loose, in quotes, with the language?
I would severely disagree with that comment. The planning board is not being overly loose. The ordinance is not overly loose. The ordinance, in fact, basically indicates that the zone is so large that the other half of the golf course cannot be developed for residential or any other purposes other than to remain as a golf course or as open space or a combination of both. And I'll obviously defer to Mr. Maskey, but in my involvement in this ordinance, I would severely disagree with that connotation.
Okay, last one from Mr. O'Donnell. Can we include a max lot size in the zoning ordinance?
Not without renegotiating the ordinance, getting the special master approval and the court approval. The parties considered the issue of lot size as it relates to the maximum number of units and the maximum tract size.
Wouldn't the maximum lot size be 180 that only have one lot? This is Mr. Delcor.
Ostensibly, it actually would be a little large. Well, it would be potentially a little larger than an acre, because right now it's a max of 174 units on 180 acres, of which 2 of those acres are taken up right now for the telecommunications. So it's about 1 acre, 1 house per acre.
So in other words, if they went to 2 acres per unit, they would have the maximum amount of units.
Okay. Who was that commenting for the record?
If they wanted 2 acres a unit, you'd have half the number of units.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the chairman. Who asked that question?
Oh, sorry, Chairman. Kurt Emmett.
Who?
Mr. Emick.
Mr. Emick.
Come on, guys, get together.
Okay, moving on. So, next one, Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. Does this ordinance lock in the future developer's rights to what they may build, or can changes be made at the time of the site plan presentations which may cut back on what the developer is allowed to build?
I'll try to take it, this is Eric Bernstein, obviously, again. I'll try to take a stab at Susan's question because it's a little convoluted. But this is the ordinance upon which an application can be based. In order to get more than this ordinance requires, it requires significant changes in the ordinance, which would take more than the usual 2 readings of the governing body and a planning board approval. So to the extent that they can get better than what's in this ordinance, the answer is no. If they can get worse than the maximum amount, the sense that they're willing to agree to build less within the confines of the ordinance, then without a need to change the ordinance, then it could occur. But in terms of making changes to the ordinance, the answer is no. So it would require a renegotiation, another approval by the special master of the Fairshire Housing Center, and another hearing before Judge Miller.
Okay, Rohit Gupta, 58 Ann Street. Are there plans to expand the Hamilton Road due to increase in traffic? As we have well water in the area, How will the water supply be managed for this large consumption?
This is Dave. Those are questions that would be answered during the site plan review process. Traffic studies would determine the capacity of the roadways. Water would have to be provided by a utility. So those are specifics that would come with the site plan.
And obviously, this is Eric Bernstein again, under the wastewater management plan developed by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, stormwater runoff would actually have to be no more than it currently is now, and probably decreased by the applicant in order to get approvals.
Tom O'Donnell, 33 Ann Street. Does the designation of this site as a green belt in the township master plan get considered here? Does the planning board acknowledge that this proposed zoning is again contradictory to the green belt designation on the master plan?
I'll let Eric follow up on this, but the whole affordable housing process, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is really directed and determined by the courts. The master plan is out there. How much weight it has in front of a court, we see how that happens. So Eric, if you want to add to that?
There is still a green belt designation within the parameters of this development, because ostensibly half of the golf course is going to remain either as a golf course or as open space. To the impact of the zoning will take precedent, especially as a resolution of an affordable housing project.
Gary Baldwin, Franklin Drive. Without knowing where the connection for the public water and sewer will be, how do we know the existing infrastructure can handle the sewage capacity from the site?
And this is Chairman, I think, Mr. Bernstein, I think already addressed that. That's all going to be part of the...
To work that out with the Hillsborough Township MUA.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go one step further. The answer is it will be the applicant's obligation if they want to get this site developed and meet the requirements of the Hillsborough Township MUA and the DEP relative to wastewater management, etc., then obviously the infrastructure is going to have to meet the need.
Susan?
Otherwise, they can't build to what the infrastructure can't hold.
Okay, Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. Side yard setbacks. Only 10 feet between houses. Do we have any other housing that lets all the items in E4B protrude into the side setbacks? Page 50, she says, or am I misreading this setback?
The minimum setbacks are 20 feet front yard, 6 feet side yard, 20 feet rear yard. Minimum yard setback for accessory structures, 20 feet front yard, 5 feet side yard, 5 feet rear yard. That's E4 and E5. So.
Okay, Tom O'Donnell again. Can protection provision be included with the zoning to ensure that Claremont's drinking water and surface water in our streams, ponds, and ultimately the Raritan River are protected?
This is Dave. Any developer of this project or any project would have to meet all of the state standards for wastewater, stormwater, water quality before they could build anything.
Okay, Chairman, at this time, I see that is all the chat questions.
Okay. So with that, we will, we've already done the motion to open up the public.
Yeah, that is the public. We just-
So let's open up the phone line. And
All
once,
participants are now in interactive talk mode.
okay, if anyone would like to provide commentary or ask questions, please state your name and your address for the record. Right.
Give us a second.
No, but it sounds like there's somebody on the line. I'm hearing a very soft or faint voice. This was the chairman, but I thought I was hearing someone asking a question with a very faint voice.
I see nobody speaking.
Are the lines open now for questions?
Yep. Hi, Susan.
Hi there, Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. I want to follow up on my question about the side yard setback. The part about, do we have other housing that lets all those items, windows, porches, stairs, chimneys, etc. So those up to 12 inches would be allowed without any variances?
The ordinance doesn't say it can be 12 inches from the sideline. It says it can protrude out 12 inches into the side yard setback. So a bay window, for instance, or a chimney. That was Dave, Tina, sorry.
So instead of 6 feet, it would be no more than, it would be 5 feet.
Correct.
Okay, that's why I asked about there only being 10 feet between the houses, which seems really close. Okay, thank you.
Any other question, comments on the line? Okay, here.
Yep, this is Tom O'Donnell, 33 Ann Street.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got a question about this, which to me, and I'm just going to, in my opinion, this is an extreme dense community, and I need to look at the plan to get familiar with the concept they're presenting. But in the past, with the plan that they've shown, most of this development was going to be on what's now the east course, the semi-private side. 45% impervious surface with this zoning. How does that compare to the R zone of Claremont community today? What is the impervious surface limit for an R zone property?
I don't have that in front of me.
I mean, the only thing I can offer, this is the chairman, sorry, is another affordable housing. It's the chairman, Chairman Sirachi.
Go ahead.
All right. So I was saying that all I can offer is from one of the township's affordable housing zones, which happens to be round one, which happens to be where my development is. We have 40% impervious coverage in that development. And the development next to us, which is not part of it, I believe is at 15%, so you can have quite a disparity between adjacent developments. And as far as I know, there has been no issues with any type of flooding place.
So that's great for your neighborhood. For my neighborhood, it's a very big concern because I think our number is much lower, and we have a problem with runoff today. And if you're putting this density right next to our property that's fed by streams, and before you guys go, I understand, it's a different animal because we're dealing with the affordable housing component, which I think, in my opinion, it's a shame that it basically, once you say affordable housing, it seems like logic is put aside and affordable housing is front and center, and now we've got $5 million in play. So, in my opinion, that's taken precedence over the bigger issue that concerns my community, and that's the environmental concerns. I understand the site plan is where it's going to be addressed. Logically, I don't understand how we can zone a property knowing that the zone potentially causes environmental issues and impact to a neighboring community. That's the root of my question, and I'd like to have somebody get back to me with the percentage difference between the 45 and what Claremont community is today, because as I said, we struggle with our rain runoff today as is. And that's the golf course next to us.
So,
that is not impervious.
Tom, it's Frank Delcor. So your point is noted, but the issue is we simply can't set parameters for a zone without having all of the engineering that would be part of the site plan. So we can't indicate what's going to be needed to conform to all of the regulatory requirements from an environmental perspective without undertaking the engineering that's specific to the project. So
I understand your question, but again, this is just a framework for the zone. The site plan will have to address all of the things like it does on every site plan, and it comes up every one we do on the planning board. There's questions about the environmental and water impact and wetlands and the stream corridors and all that, and that has to be addressed to DEP satisfaction. So I appreciate your concern, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but I just want you to understand we can't engineer a zone without understanding what the actual build-out is going to look like.
Okay, Frank, you were around during the Erickson project. You know what that was for my community and for me myself. There have been a lot of engineering studies done on that property, and I pray that somebody has gone back and looked at all of that documentation and reports that produced. My community paid good money for third-party consultants to look at that property, analyze the runoff, and the potential impact for our community. So I understand in normal circumstances you don't have the engineering done. I would argue that the engineering is done in this case, and it should be considered before the zoning is changed to see if it's at least consistent with what is known about that property historically. That's my major point.
Fair enough, but it's also, and this is Frank again, it's also very different than the Erickson project. First of all, the Erickson project was the entire site and was thousands of units.
No, actually, Frank, it was 183.01. They were leaving 183 alone because they were leaving the golf course over there alone. So I know it's different than I acknowledge that. But, you know, just because now we're talking low income, we're talking builder's remedy lawsuit concerns, you can't disregard and just turn a blind eye to the physical attributes of the site. And that's where I have a problem with all this.
No, you understood, but again, that will all have to be dealt with at the time of site plan. That's.
So you guys are okay with the engineering being done, highlighting problems with this property, zoning it inconsistent potentially with the characteristics of the property? That's basically what I'm hearing.
No.
I wouldn't answer that. Because that's not Mr. O'Donnell, that's not what's before the board, and you're setting up a straw man for an answer. The issue is the zoning here. The zoning, as Mr. Delcor has indicated, is one item. The development and the planning as to the development itself is a separate item to be dealt with at the appropriate time, and one does not necessarily impact the other.
So there's no planning board is not chartered to plan and consider the property and the conditions of the property when they set it on.
The planning board is asked to review a zoning ordinance change or a zoning ordinance creation in accordance with the overall development of the municipality at hand, in this case, in concordance with a court settlement between parties related to the development of the site.
Mr. Chairman, this is Fred Kinsler. I just want to make sure, Mr. O'Donnell, you typed a couple more messages in the chat. I want to make sure that those were covered in your, audio conversation as well, please.
Fred Kinsler, I just want to make sure, Mr. O'Donnell, a couple more messages in the chat. I want to make sure that those were covered in your...
Yeah, I mean, one of the items I have in the chat is, it's my understanding that the DEP wastewater management approval for block 183.01 was based on their, I'll call it, in my opinion, their bogus proposal to build a convention center 7 miles from one of the largest convention centers in the state. But they needed to get the wastewater management approval to pursue any type of building on the property. So kudos to them for doing a great play there. It's my understanding that approval was for that proposed project. And this proposed project is not obviously the same project and would require them to go back to the DEP and get wastewater management plan acceptance given the new project. Is that a correct assumption based on what I've read?
Mr. O'Donnell, I'll try to answer the question I believe the same way I answered it 2 nights ago when you asked the Township Committee. If the applicant is coming in with a wastewater management, with a development plan and a wastewater management plan relative to things, they are going to need DEP review and approval. If they receive an approval from DEP relative to their 208 study that differs from what is being proposed, they're going to have to conform to what is being proposed, not necessarily what was approved. It's quite possible, in fact, if they were talking about building a convention center and got approval for a convention center, their obligation or their need for wastewater management may actually decrease based upon statistics in the law. That'll be up to DEP to review.
Any more questions on the chat?
Well, let's just make sure if anybody else on the public line has.
No, I think I'm good. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. Just also, this is, you know, kind of a preview of what will be coming out and asked at the July 14th meeting.
Okay.
Does anybody else on the public bridge have any comments?
Okay, hearing none, I think we'll close the line.
Okay, Chairman, this is Fred again. There are a couple further chat questions that came in during this.
Okay.
So the first one is from Bonnie Eden at 55 Ann Street. You cannot compare this project to affordable housing as this is a single-family homes. That was the comment. And then the second one was Nadia Rovito.
Yeah, before we...
Sure,
so
sorry, go ahead.
This is, just a comment, this is Frank Delcourt again. It's not, there is an element of affordable housing that comes with the project. So there is an affordable element because of the market rate units that's being built. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. Yes, these are single-family homes, but with that comes an element of affordable to help us meet obligations.
May I, Mr. Chairman? Eric Bernstein again.
Proceed.
Any development of more than 5 housing units is required to have an affordable housing provision. It was determined by the township as part of its negotiations with the developer that rather than increase the number of potential units on the site, and I will indicate for the purpose of the record, that when the developer came in to the township initially, it was proposing 400 total units, of which about 300 were market and the remainder would be affordable. We decided we wanted significantly fewer units on the site, and because of that, we got the developer to agree not to build on-site affordable housing units, and because there was a need relative to our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, they are making a contribution in lieu. But every development of more than 5 residential units requires affordable housing component in accordance with state law.
Okay, thank you.
And the last one is from Nadia Rovito at 45 Ann Street. Has the township completed an assessment of how 180 new homes will impact all of our school? We already have overcrowded schools.
Can I answer that? So this is Frank Delcourt. So that is not, again, there are multiple pieces to that. We're required to deal with the affordable housing element. Unfortunately, the requirements from Fair Share Housing don't necessarily take into account the impact on schools and infrastructure, but that will be part of the process when there is a site plan, because there will need to be a community impact statement prepared by the applicant.
Unless they ask for a waiver.
It's a requirement.
All right, and then I guess we'll finish Tom O'Connell again. So even though no affordable housing units are on this site, the site is allowed to go to a 45% impervious surface area coverage, which is normal for an affordable housing site, correct?
It's not normal, I mean, impervious cover, and sorry, Tina, this is the chairman. So with regards to impervious coverage, that is completely contingent on the engineering that is done to handle, stormwater. So that's kind of, where that's coming in, and they are going to have to do some significant, engineering to achieve that level of impervious coverage.
And that is all.
Okay? Okay, so with that, motion to close public hearing. Or
So moved.
comment. That was Mr. Hashtag.
Who made the motion?
Mr. Hashtag.
Hashtag, sorry,
Who?
Ken Hashtag.
Oh.
Is there a second?
This is Frank Delcor, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can I just do a general voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. So with that, just going to take any more comments or questions from the dais. I'm not seeing or hearing any, so Mr. Bernstein, what's our next course of action?
Next course of action, Mr. Chairman, is to recommend to the Township Committee the adoption of ordinance number 2020-17, an ordinance amending Chapter 188 of the Land Use and Development, Article 5, District and Standards of the Code of the Township of Hillsborough by addition of a new section 113.9 Royce Brook Planned Residential District.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to make that recommendation?
This is Neil Julian, I'll make that motion.
Yeah. Hi, this is Ken Hashtag, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Peterson?
Peterson, yes.
Mr. Scobo?
Yes.
Mr. Ciccarelli?
Ciccarelli, yes.
Mr. Emick?
Amick, yes.
Mr. Delcor?
Yes.
Mr. Hestad?
Yes.
Mr. Julian?
Yes.
Chairman Darachi?
Yes. Okay, so that is all we have on this evening's agenda. Just a reminder that we did cancel at our last meeting the July 2nd Planning Board meeting. We do have the July 9th Planning Board meeting scheduled, and it looks like we do have an application.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so if anyone is unable to make the July 9th, please reach out to the planning office as soon as possible. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Scobo will make that motion, thank you.
Julian, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? None? All right, good evening, everyone, and we will see you all on July 9th. Have a great 4th of July weekend.
You also.
Stay safe and healthy, everybody.